Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. I just thought the spring TBR might be a great idea to prioritize the books that I've been waiting to read for a while now. I have my Goodreads open on my lap and I organized the books from highest average rating to lowest, so let's jump right in. So first I finally want to get to The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I know that Circe is apparently really great as well, but I want to start with The Song of Achilles. This seems like a Greek story retelling of Achilles, of how Patroclus, sorry I'm pronouncing this like the German way, is being sent to King Peleus's court, and that's where he meets Achilles, and it seems like they're going to form a friendship. I'm expecting this to be a great read. It has an average rating of 4.41 stars, and I loved anything that had to do with Greek mythology when I was younger, so I think this is going to be good. If you have already read this book, and also Circe, let me know which book you preferred. And then the only book that I actually already own from this list, well, not in physical copy, but as an ebook, is REDAWN by Brandon Sanderson. He co-wrote it with Jancy Patterson. So this is a short novella that you're supposed to read between book 2 and 3 of the Skyward series. So the first book is Skyward, then you have Starsight, then you have the 2 or 3 novellas between Starsight and Cytonic, which is the newest book that I haven't read yet because I want to get through the novellas first. So the first novella I already read in, I think it was December, which was Sunreach, and it does read a bit more YA-ish than the rest of the series. Maybe it is supposed to be like that because it's a novella, or maybe it's because it was co-written by somebody else who's not Brandon Sanderson. But still, I had fun with it. It provided me with a lot of new, very interesting information. So I'm actually curious, for people who don't read the novellas, if they're going to be missing out on information if they just jump from book 2 right to book 3, because I feel like there were some very important learnings in that book. And then REDAWN is going to be about a character named Alanic, whom you get introduced to in book 2. So let's see what else I'm going to learn about that character, because you don't really know too much about her from book 2. And that has an average rating of 4.25 stars. And I was debating whether I would read this one or not. I was going back and forth, but I just finally decided I'm going to give it a go. It's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue from V.E. Schwab. This has an average rating of 4.24 stars of 5. So Addie LaRue is a young woman in the 1800s who lives in France who makes a pact with the devil, I think. And what happens is she needs to get out of a very precarious situation, so she makes this pact, but in return, she gets to live forever, but nobody will ever remember her, so I guess that deems her to a very, very lonely life. And then one day, somebody does seem to remember her, so I think that's where the story picks up. I think it's probably going to be a love story, that's what I'm guessing. It's also probably going to be about the meaning of life and what loneliness means and companionship. So this is quite a long read, so I'm really hoping that this is going to be good. I was wrong, I actually do have one book as a physical copy that I already own from this list. It's The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I just featured this in my last big book haul. You can check that out if you want to. I got this from Book Outlet, and I just really wanted to get into Octavia E. Butler's sci-fi work this year. I heard so many just grand things about her writing. When global climate change and economic crises lead to social chaos in the early 2020s, California becomes full of dangers, from pervasive water shortages to masses of vagabonds who will do anything to live to see another day. So this sounds very post-apocalyptic, but at the same time, it's the early 2020s. So what would you call this? Speculative? Oh gosh, I had trouble pronouncing that in my last video too. Speculative fiction. I also want to get to I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. I added this one particularly on my TBR because it has been on my general TBR list since 2016. I just want to get this off my list, and I'm still interested in reading it after so many years, so you know what, I'm just gonna get it from the library, I think. This book is about the twins Jude and Noah. They seem to be super best friends and inseparable, and then sometime in the future they're not on speaking terms anymore. So that's what you're exploring, what happened to them. The summary says it's going to leave you breathless and teary and laughing, so that sounds good. And I think this also has some queer representation in it, because from the summary it looks like Noah could be queer. We'll see. For my non-fiction biography pick, I want to read My Life in France by Julia Child. So Julia Child is basically the chef that brought the French cuisine to America. And I've actually never heard of her before, although I am very much a cooking and baking fan. But one day I watched Julie and Julia with Meryl Streep and Amy Adams, and I've rewatched that movie ever since. I don't know, I really fell in love with that movie, and I became much more interested in Julia Child. I actually made her a bœuf bourguignon recipe three times already. It's so good. I heard from, who is it? Mara from Books Like Whoa. I think it was her who said this is one of her favorite biographies as well. So I really want to dig into this one, because I think it seems like she had a very interesting life. So because of her husband's job, he had a very interesting governmental position. I think they moved to France, and without basically speaking a word of French, she then enrolled into the Cordon Bleu school, familiarized herself with French cuisine and professional cooking. For my sci-fi pick, I have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This would be my first Blake Crouch book, another author that I basically just finally wanted to get to. And because it's about a mysterious sci-fi story, I don't want to know too much, but what I do know is that it's about a man named Jason, and he has like a picture-perfect family, and then one day he wakes up and everything is just gone. He seems to be in a parallel universe where he does not have a family, but instead he's some kind of, I think, famous scientist. Obviously he has to kind of figure out what's going on, what is his real life. I mean, my guess is that maybe the universe with like his perfect son and wife is maybe like the dream or something like that. I also want to read The Inheritance of ORQUÍDEA Divina by Zoraida Cordova. Did I pronounce that correctly? I don't know. I basically picked because I was so lucky with my Latinx fiction books that I have read in the last months. So I loved Mexican Gothic. I loved also Cemetery Boys that I just read. I have a feeling that I'm really gonna like this one too. So this is gonna be about the family Montoya. They seem to be living just a very fortunate life, but nobody questioned it. One day, the family matriarch passes. They get to her house, and the way I understand it, she transformed into a tree. From there on, I think in the following years, they start to unravel family mysteries. So I'm not sure if this is gonna include magical realism or just a straight up magic system. It just sounds really good to me because it has that like magical element and family drama. And just the fact that the grandma transforms into a tree sounds pretty awesome to me, and I honestly also just love the cover. I have seen this, I think, floating around somewhere before, but the reason why I put it on my TBR is actually because of Storygraph. I just recently joined that app, and I think it has like nice stats on it that Goodreads does not have, which I'm gonna link both of my page links down below if you want to follow me on either Storygraph or Goodreads. So yeah, that's why I picked this, and I don't know, I just have a good feeling about this book. Then for my random library pick, so one day I was going around a new library, and this is one of the books that was on display. I've never seen it before, never heard about the author before. I just kind of read the blurb and it sounded super interesting to me. It's This Shining Life by Harriet Klein, and doesn't this cover just scream spring at you? This is probably one of the only books that actually fits the spring theme. This cover just really intrigued me, and I think this is going to be a very heartfelt book. This is about a dad named Rich and his family, and he knows that he's going to die of a brain tumor. So what he does is he basically puts together little messages or gifts together with his autistic son Ollie for the rest of the family. And one day he does pass away, and I think this book is about grief and how the family moves forward, and maybe how Ollie's gonna feel about it. I'm not sure, but maybe some of the chapters are gonna be from his point of view is what I'm guessing. So I'm expecting this to be very emotional, very touching. It sounds like I'm going to shed a few tears, but it also sounds to me like it's going to be uplifting and inspiring. This has an average rating of 3.69 stars. And then my last book the lowest rating with 3.64 stars, which actually surprised me because this has been super popular, I think, is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I admit I don't know too much about this, and I really want to leave it this way because this is like a horror book. It has something to do with tropes of, I think, final girl and slasher movies. From memory, I think it's about a girl who thinks that there's gonna be like a horrible murder spree going around in her town because there's a new girl that moves into town and to her school, and she has final girl vibes. So our main character, I think, I'm working off assumption here, believes that there's just signs everywhere that that girl is going to be like the last girl standing, the final girl, and everybody around her is basically going to be murdered. Something like that. I don't know why this is the lowest rated one. I mean, 3.6 is not that low, but I just was a bit surprised that it was like the bottom of the list because this is actually one of the books that I looked most forward to. What is on your spring TBR? Are there any books that you really want to try reading between March and May? And also, have you read any of the books that I just talked about? And please tell me that you like them. Feel free to subscribe if you love watching bookish content, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye.